Hello, everyone. Thank you for this next version of Webinars Now. And my name is Dave Lundahl. I'm happy to be co-presenting today on the subject of getting ready for a great 2021, a time when we hope to be transitioning from COVID times to some new normal, whatever that is. And today I'm going to be co-presenting with Mark Crowell, CEO for Culinex, to offer some tips collectively with us, together to accelerate your food product success in 2021. So welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Dave. Glad to be here.
As for myself, just as a bit of introduction, I'm the CEO for Insights Now. I am passionate about changing the world through innovation to make this world a cleaner, happier place, healthier place to live. And I'm passionate also about applying neuroscience to speed up more successful product development. Mark?
We are with a very similar mission focused on clean label development. We've been doing this for quite some time, and Dave and I have been partnered up for a few years now, delivering some very novel product development solutions to the marketplace to create clean label products.
So about Insights Now, especially if you're new to Insights Now, we are innovators on innovation. Provide insights. We apply neuroscience through a behavioral scoring set of metrics to help companies bring more successful products to market. And when I say neuroscience, it is defined as a study of both the conscious and unconscious human behavior. And its application is neuromarketing, application, innovation, product development, and marketing. And how we do it is the generation of what I said earlier, behavioral scores, either neurophysiological scores, as I've listed here, but more frequently through surveys and questionnaires that include what we call prime target response to these questions. And further, along this line, we have developed an innovation. Some can call it an invention, called an implicit-explicit test, where we can understand what modes of thinking people are using when they are assessing ideas, concepts, ingredient statements, claims, products, and even brands. And we use these to generate scores to determine whether people have been disrupted, whether it's mundane or not important. We use it to drive survey logic to understand why people are responding as they are, either fast or slow or whatever. We've created some new scoring systems for norms and even databases so that companies can utilize these scores to make faster decisions. And one of the companies we've been working with is Mark's company, Culinex.
In addition to Dave's cutting edge work in neuromarketing and behavioral scoring, we are providing cutting edge product development services in the clean label foods area. We're passionate about great tasting food. We're both culinarians and food scientists, taking products all the way from concept through to commercialization. With the tools Dave is providing, we have been able to create some very powerful new product concepts that incorporate deep consumer insights.
So this session is being intended to be interactive. We love to have you participate with us. And you can see, and some of you have already done that. I think we answered one question on one person already today. If you have questions, pop them in there. We'll answer them right away if you can. if we can, or we'll wait until after to Q&A and address any questions you may have. So just type them in on the side panel where it says questions.
And in the spirit of participation, we're starting out today with a question we'd like you to answer. What do you expect from 2021? Will it continue with everyone coping from the fallout of COVID, or will we see some sort of a return to a pre-COVID normal? Will 2021 be a time when companies start flourishing again after COVID to this new normal? What do you think? Please take a moment to vote in the poll on your screen.
Great, I've seen a lot of you clicking through. Keep going at it. We'd love to see all your responses. I'm going to close it here in just a minute. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Closed. And so let's take a look at the results. So it's interesting. About a quarter of you said either coping. Quarter of you said return to some pre-COVID, but more of you are really looking forward to flourishing in the new year, which I think is really, really exciting.
Quite a split, which says to me, Dave, that people are really seeing all three things happening at once. We're in a real transition period now, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So let's move on here. So one of the reasons why we wanted to start out with this is the idea of coping. To start us thinking about what the future could bring when we get into 2021, and especially I'm sure all of us are tired with what has been the past and seeking that. So I wanted to start out, thinking about, the companies that we all work with. Everyone had to do a lot of pivoting this past year to deal with all the challenges that COVID presented to us. And a lot of consumer packaged good industry companies in particular, we saw a lot of shifting away from innovation to renovations and just production and distribution to get products on store shelves because of all of the challenges that were involved with that. From a consumer perspective, of course, there was a lot of coping going on with consumers, shoppers, and consumers themselves. And so this last year, we have been tracking how shopping and consuming motivations have been changing since early March. And you can actually, if you want to learn more about that, you can click through, go to our website, and you can navigate to these custom communities and responses section, and you can drill down more. But what we hypothesized back in March was that there would be a series of shifts in motivations in shopping and consumer behavior. And some of these shifts would be psychological. That means motivated product decisions to that in response to how products or even lack thereof or product experiences impacted people's feelings or moods. Some sensorial, that is driven by sensory experiences, loss, disappointment, seeking more desire eventually. Some that are social, such as sharing, and some that are very functional, such as safety and health and wellness and things like that. And in particular, what we did is in looking at this sort of time course, we hypothesized that functional motivators will remain through the pandemic, and that the social, sensorial, and psychological motivators would start driving more and more product purchases as we transition from the initial time of transition through a period of adjustment, which we're still in now, to a period of recovery, which will be happening in the first 2 quarters of 2021, and into some new normal that will be in the second half of next year. So our research that was conducted back in March and again in July found that this model has been playing out quite well. As you can see, these numbers on different types of motivators, bucketed, sensorial, psychological, sensorial, function, socially, and socially. So you saw psychological and sensorial start to increase, and so on. And so we'll show some new information in the new year about Q4. And the motivations that are driving consumers and shoppers today, I will tell you, is can be determined by a new white paper that we just released this past week. And it's something you can get to this link on here, and we'll provide this link to everybody after the fact, so you'll be able to drill down. So we'll just send you an email on this. What this research is showing us very clearly is that health and wellness concerns have been accelerated. So the pre-COVID sort of trends have been just accelerated tremendously because of COVID. And so they're very predominant today, and we believe will remain so even into the new normal. Further, people are getting tired, bored, and they're missing their sensory experiences. They're missing social sharing. In addition, trust has been broken with shoppers and consumers and some brands, and especially with regard to large institutions and government about what is safe and healthy. So there's also motivations to buy what is clean and authentic are going to be really important moving into 2021. Last, people have been exposed to a lot of new technology this last year, virtual social, Zooming and all that, as well as online shopping and home delivery. And we forecast that is not going to go away. That is going to be transitioning into what will become the new normal. So where I'm going with all of this, where Mark and I should say, going with all of this, is that now is the time to transition from coping to flourishing. And I'm glad that 37% of you said, yes, we're looking to flourish. And what I mean by flourish is what we mean by flourish is to take action now to innovate, to grow in a healthy and vigorous way in 2021. And if you're a marketer, the idea of flourishing is to prepare now to make extravagant flourish actions to attract the attention of shoppers and consumers and respectively retailers in new ways in 2021. So specifically to flourish, if you have renovations ready to go, we predict the optimal time to launch them will be Q2 2021, as this will be the time where there will be a transitioning and into the recovery time where shoppers and consumers be ready to experience things that are new but still fairly familiar, yet fitting with their health and safety COVID concerns still important. Then in Q3, this is going to be the right time to launch your new product innovations, aligning with what will become the new normal. So what consumers are going to be in high demand for with regard to new products is things that are clean, things that are healthy, things that are shareable, things that fit online ordering and delivery to their homes. And so if you're going to flourish in 2021, Now is the time to start developing new products. And the faster you can get to market with your innovations, the more successful you will be. And the cleaner the brand, the more the product will be trusted. The more perceived the brand is as good for you, the more socially and environmentally responsible the brand is perceived, the more it will be trusted. So if you have not yet started your innovation plans by now, you need to sprint. And that's what we're going to talk about through the rest of this conversation today. With this in mind, Mark's company and Insights Now, we've formed an alliance to accelerate food industry innovation by applying these behavioral scores and our databases and our DIY tools to generate, these scores, so that in collaboration with Culinix, which has this deep culinary and product experience, you can help, get these products to market. You can sprint.
Well, this is interesting, Dave. None of these things that you've mentioned for the second half of 2021 are new, but you've been at this research for decades. What is different? I just asked this question for my own curiosity about the disruption that's happening now. Have you seen, what's the magnitude of this disruption from COVID compared to things that you've seen in the past?
Yeah, in spite of the terrible loss of life and loss of jobs and the pain that COVID has provided, if you're a consumer researcher, this is the most dramatic sort of change so fast that we have ever seen in our careers. And so we're seeing that this is with that change, there is opportunities. People are so disrupted. Instead of thinking about disrupting the markets, what this is really exposed is the need to pull information, to understand what it is that people need to move into the new normal. And so it's dramatic time, to answer your question, Mark.
I appreciate that perspective, Dave. I assumed you were going to answer that way, but I really wanted to hear you say it. I've never asked you specifically that particular question, but it sort of underlies everything that we are doing here with Craves, which is to try to create a process that positions companies to create products that are going to find the opportunity within the disruption. So this slide is a nice segue to the conversation about what is Craves, clean label research through agile evolution to the stores, and for good reason. We didn't want to use that as a title. Craves is a lot handier. What underlies the Craves process? So we're going to talk about some design principles here. First, insights-driven. Dave has done a nice job of setting up his company's capabilities and why this sort of research is so important, particularly right now. We're so proud to be associated with Dave's company because he really is on the cutting edge of behavioral research with his team. Secondly, an integrated design process. If you're really going to create a product design process made for these times, you want that process to be completely integrated with your target consumers' behavior. You have to understand it. Third, speed to market. As Dave just illustrated on that timeline, if you have a 6 to 9 month, which is a fairly quick product development timeline for a new product, and very fast for a new product, okay sort of a timeline for a line extension, it's already late. You got to be in market in Q2 or Q3 of next year. It's already late. So you got to get to market and do it quickly. And fourth, you have to have that product development expertise. I know a number of you on the call today are product development folks. You have a lot of product development expertise. This focus on trust, this focus on clean label to assuage the disruption that people are experiencing. There's got to be products coming to market that really hit the nail on the head. So let's take a look at the Craves process itself. It starts with white space discovery, and white space discovery is really blank sheet of paper, big idea, new to market products. White space discovery for Dave and I is actually a whole process within the Craves process. Today, we're not going to spend much time speaking about the white space discovery process. We did do a webinar on that a few weeks ago, and let the team know after the call if you're interested in a recording of that. I think Dave can make that available to you.
Yeah, I'll send a link to everybody as well, along with the stuff on that I mentioned earlier. I'll send a link to the prior last month's webinar if anyone's interested in specifically white space discovery.
So Craves is made up of white space discovery and 5 sprints. Each sprint builds on the knowledge and information gained on this step before. Each occurs quite rapidly and in a very focused way with cross-functional teams, and can have as much or as little involvement on the part of the client company as desired. Let's take a look at the first sprint, which is finding your focus.
Yeah, so if you're going to be a disruptor, or to really understand what it is that consumers are seeking, with regard to a specific category, it starts with what we call a deep dive. To understand what are the current behaviors, and what are the underlying motivators, such as I was showing you in terms of the course of change because of COVID in consumer behavior. And the same goes for, adjusting to, these needs, or pivoting in the face of new competitive threats. If others are doing that, how do you respond? So we like to start there, and we recommend what this leads to by looking at the competitive set, what existing consumer behaviors. This is like a baseline, and it helps us set up so that you can take whatever ideas you have, whatever platforms you have in mind to address a certain category. It's a starting place to really develop a clean label action plan to have a behavioral impact, to have some success in the marketplace. An example of this is plant-based ground, okay? And which is, the last couple of years has seen huge increase, as well as in other plant-based sort of meat products. So, and this is a baseline. This is based on some choice scores where we took the whole category and had category users do choice sort of sets, and this is showed that Sweet Earth Awesome Grounds came up, Impossible scored fairly high as well, and so on and so forth. And underlying that, we also collect information that lets you understand what are the most important drivers. So if you're thinking, environmentally friendly or trendy is important, it's not that as important as being healthy, having appetizing appearance, having good ingredients, as well as budget concerns. So these are sort of baselines which set you up at the very front end, in a very quick way to really get into the next stage, which is your, concepting area. So as you can see, this is someone that we're working with in plant-based ground for this case study, thought that, yes, this understanding was really, really important.
So sprint one, Dave was just describing at a very high level, finding your focus, looking at the competitive set, doing store shops, a number of activities, what we call a landscape analysis, that sets us up, particularly on the product development team, to begin creating our concepts. These concepts are going to really focus in on where the opportunity areas are, using insights from Find Your Focus. Now, in traditional product development, we would have relied on the marketing department or consumer research to come up with some ideas about where the opportunity is. But in Crave, we're zeroing in on the category in a holistic 360-degree view of not only the market dynamics, but the consumer behavior behind the dynamics. And that is where the difference is between the Craves process and what might be given to the product development teams to begin concept creation that we're going to talk about now in Sprint 2.
Yeah, so in this step, it's really something we call co-creation. It's a process for which, if you're going to be really understand what the needs are, you need to understand what it is that people are seeking. What are the benefits, and what are the elements about products, that you can build in conceptually to get you really good direction downstream in your development.
In this case, we're continuing on with the plant-based burger example case study, and what we have are 4 varieties of plant-based burgers, each one taking a tact that is based upon what consumers have said are important features and benefits, but also behavioral drivers. These platform concepts, you can see in the chart below, you can see some ingredients that have got clean label scores from consumers, and the product development team went back and said, are the platforms under which we can begin the concepting process? We came up with 4 platforms: high protein overload, let it bleed for the real deal meat experience, the umami bomb, bulk flavors and the unhealthy fat, and Veggielicious that focused on simple labels, gluten-free grains and vegetables. You can see these platforms leave a lot of room underneath each one to ideate against different subgroups of consumers and different consumer behavioral desires.
Right, and preceding the development of these concepts is these behavioral scores that we provide with regard to benefits that are important to consumers as they shop in this category. And and not only the benefits that are currently playing, but new ideas for new benefits. So for instance, the idea of real meat, okay, or high protein, or low fat, or not unhealthy fat, I should say, or the idea of gluten-free, or these different constructs in consumers' mind have different sort of ideas. And so by understanding through a scoring system which of these are better, it's easier for culinologists, product developers at the concepting stage to build these concepts, I should say, to determine which direction has the greatest chances for success.
And for the product development team, it really helps to focus in the concepting, a creation underneath each of these platforms and really kind of put a fence around the ideas so that they can be populated with specific concepts.
Yeah, and here is an example of some other scores that are used often at the front end here because when you're concepting from a culinary or product development perspective, there's a lot of different choices of what type of product you use in creating something that is say gluten-free, high protein, or much more like meat, the real deal type of thing. So looking at these in terms of what is going to be perceived as clean, is really important, even at this early stage when you're just concepting.
So taking the platforms and moving into actual concepts, the team is able to ideate a number of different concepts. We'll typically do 15 to 25 concepts underneath each platform, and using the information on ingredient acceptance by clean label enthusiasts, we're able to begin identifying how would we construct these from a formulary standpoint. So you can see the high protein is featuring a mung bean and soy protein mix. You can see the umami bomb is featuring roasted mushroom, tamari, tomato essence, things that are high in umami. And the Veggielicious is focused on beet, quinoa, and millet for the type of appearance that would be very desirable for a plant-based burger. We're going to take these concepts underneath of these representative platforms. You can see we narrowed from 4 platforms to 3 here, and we are going to put them into what Dave calls a tournament. I think you'll have to explain that, Dave. There's way too much math in there for me, but it's a way to get how people are looking at and scoring various ideas that are available to them in a particular context, or what Dave's team calls moments of use, and they're going to all go into a concept test, and Dave will explain how that works.
There's a lot goes into it, but it's priming people into moments of their real experiences. It's providing, often we'll use competitive products here against some of these paper concepts. And with that, we measure through our behavioral metrics, how they score, not only in terms of like maybe choices, which, but also sometimes we'll even include ways of looking at the anticipated emotions you get when you think about one or another. Why would you choose this? What is it? How does it make you feel? And that gives us a good sense for which of these concepts really had the chance to really impact the category.
Once we have concepts that have made it through concept testing and have been rated, we're ready to go into building our product, or what we call prototyping. Now we're going to do this through a process called co-design, and this is a series of rapid iterative design sprints that are guided by the consumer feedback that we're getting during the process. We have a number of CLT focus facilities available to us. We have very close proximity to our innovation center in Seattle, and there are others around the country that we can work with consumer groups and literally get feedback in real time to the prototypes we're developing, modifying, and then bringing back and putting in front of consumers. We have another case study here. This one was completed on fresh vegetable soups. And the diagram shows just the synopsis of the process itself, where the PD staff, research chefs, graphic artists, and marketing folks get together with the researchers in this session, and there are a series of these prototype sprints. There's usually a one-way mirror where we're observing consumer reaction to the prototypes. We're debriefing very quickly after each session. We have all of the ingredients necessary to revise the products very quickly. If it's a particularly complicated product that requires some processing, that takes some time, we can have a few days or perhaps a week between the consumer groups. Other products like soup, for example, here we're able to reiterate the products in just a matter of an hour or so.
Yeah, and what we'll typically do on the back end of these, this particular case study, we actually did in 3 days. And the 4th day, we did a mini CLT. So some head-to-head. We went from 36 prototypes down to 3 final prototypes that we ended up, that this company actually took to market. And so it was really fast. And in terms of, but it provided other information important to product developers.
And that's the real message here, is that we're not just dealing with jar scores, just about right scores or hedonic scales. We're really getting down sort of underneath the hood and understanding why consumers feel the way they feel. And that's the sort of insights that behavioral research brings to the product development. In this case, you can see the word pleasant surprise, the words pleasant surprise, and the word generous. These were key sort of indicators of what people were looking for in the soup products. And generous came down to a generous amount of ingredients, and that the soup would be hearty and filling. Well, how do you translate hearty and filling to things that are going to be actionable by the product development team? What exactly does that mean? This, again, is where rapid prototyping and having the consumers right in the thick of the prototype development process pays dividends. We're able to put different amounts of ingredients within each of these soup formulas in front of them, the visual cues of different colored ingredients in the soups, textural cues, and other sorts of changes to the products that consumers would want to see and evaluate. Do these meet my emotional needs? Do these meet my aspirational needs? Very behaviorally influenced terms. So here you see some of the sensory guardrails that were established for color and for thickness differentiation as various prototypes were made. And there were many more. These are just 2 examples, but the translation of these into the behavioral impact is where this differs from traditional qualitative and quantitative research.
Yeah, and very fast. Basically, 1 month engagement where we did all the planning, final reporting, whatever. We were able to help this company create a full footprint for what turned out to be a launch of a SKU, a line of 3 products into market in 7 months, which was exceedingly fast, especially for this one. It never been done before.
So coming back to the craves process, we're getting close to the end. We are now in possession of these formulas for these benchtop prototypes. The prototypes have been refined by consumer input. We have gotten sign off from the client to the gold standard samples, bench formulas, and we are ready to go and actually scale up to commercialize these formulas. Now, the scale up process is well known to all of you, I'm sure, but this is a little bit different than the typical scale up because we're only scaling up to pilot plant size. We're not doing full production runs, we're doing small batch production. And the purpose of this production is to work out our benchtop formulas into small scale batches that will create quickly saleable and labeled product to go into a consumer test, a limited consumer test. So what we're going to do first is we're going to, of course, take care of our ingredient sourcing. We're going to source our co-man that's going to create small batch product. We're going to translate all of our benchtop formulas into commercial formulas, and we're going to execute the small plant trial.
Yeah, and what I found to be in working with Mark and his team is the benchtop DOE stuff, design of experimentation, is a really, I think, a unique and a very important step to rapidly get to your plant trials and be able to produce a product in small batch runs that you can actually put directly into retail stores, which is really the goal. One of the goals here is to be able to get to the final stage of this whole thing, which this is not a, this is a pretty, to know what pilot plants to go to, what ingredients to use, all that expertise that Mark and his team has, I think is best in class. From at least what I've worked with, and leading to this final sort of sprint where we can actually get the product right into retail stores and to start getting some validation on this process really quickly. So so what this involves is getting product right into store shelves and providing feedback not only at shelf, but also getting feedback in home use trials. And this is, so in the in-store, so out of the small batch runs, is UPC code, we can do it branded, or it could be a blind brand, a made-up brand. So it gets into a store shelf. You can actually do A/B testing. You can do planogram testing and shelf sets. You can, there's all sorts of variants of this. You can look at different stores, different types of stores, different places in the country for these small run stores. And then you can actually trade off one packaging type another if you want to look at packaging variants. But what we do is,
this is a really important point, Dave. I wanted to just back up for a second to the pilot run. And, most of the time our goal going into a pilot is to really work out all the bugs and get to a final production product that's just perfect. That's not necessarily our goal here. We probably want to get the product to be 90%, but we fully anticipate learning things from consumers through this rapid prototyping testing process that might have us coming back to the plant and doing another run, maybe a third run, and making tweaks to the commercialized product to better fit the information that's coming out of the store test and the home use test.
Yep. And so the participants in these studies are pre-recruited to shop at certain stores. They go to the stores where they normally shop, and engage them at a point of a category. Don't tell them what to do, as they shop as they normally shop, And if they select or they noticed the new product that's on the shelf, that we'll engage with them further. And if they and invite them, if they didn't actually put it in their cart, to actually do put it in their cart and buy it and take it home for a what we call buy home use test. And this buy home use test is once they bought it, they actually use it, and we engage with them again in the home. So we get two things. You get information at point of sale, what is going on, are you going to get a prediction of trial from this? And the second thing you get is repeat information. Is the emotional impact going to be sufficient? And so going back to the plant-based burger study here that we talked about here, is that we're able to get emotional impacts such as this. In this case, we looked at a Beyond Burger versus whatever people's current product was. So we had them assess their current product, and then we had them assess Beyond Burger, and we were able to see the differences in emotional impact. Did Beyond Burger make them more happy? Were they, how about relaxed? Were they more excited? Was they pleasantly surprised? Pride? These are all things that were significant, showing so tremendous impact. And we know this product did really well in the store shelves. We also can take, this is a baseline that was done way back, excuse me, this baseline was done pre-assessment of Beyond Burger, and then and then after people tried Beyond Burger, you could see we had them go through this choice model, and you can see that Beyond Burger went right to the top, and on its coattails came Impossible Burger as well. And this is some research that was done a couple years ago when these were very new products. So this type of information leads to what we call lift, and a behavioral metric that shows you how well Beyond Burger in this case did against the category in disrupting it. And you see it's a 46% lift after people tried it at home, and which was a tremendous, and it aligns really well with how well this product did in the marketplace.
So Dave, if you created, let's say we created, hopefully not, but we created, it actually went down 17%. That's not good.
So it lost share against Beyond once people tried Beyond in terms of the choice, the behavioral metrics. So
if we put that into market, into test market, we would say we really didn't hit the mark, did we, on this new product? We would just pull it back and reformulate it and put it back into test again until we scored a positive lift number, correct?
Yeah, well, you could do that, right? So if it was Boca, hopefully we would have had a much stronger response. But if Boca didn't, if you don't hit your metrics, let's say you didn't achieve the lift, that is what you're asking, that you expected to move forward, you will get a tremendous amount of information about why, and through the buy home use test.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, to flourish, getting back to that, in 2021, now is the time to start sprinting to success, to take advantage of this, what we project will be a huge amount of demand for new products in the second half of this year. And this Crave solution is a way through the sprinting to rapidly and cost effectively, because it's very fast and short cycled, to deepen insights into these categories that you seek to make an impact. And it enables the establishment through these baselines to set up, what are your KPIs? Is lift a KPI for you? What other metrics? And then by applying these behavioral scores, as I showed you, through, find your focus and the co-creation, the co-design, all the way through, you can see how it's guiding or making your decisions so that you can rapidly get these products into stores to validate them. So this Crave solution enables you to do the legwork of scaling small batch runs, through Mark's fantastic team. So it's a great sort of integrated, partnership to help companies sprint.
And all in 6 to 9 months from start to finish, including an in-store test that takes about a month or a little longer than a month. It's a very, very fast process in product development.
Yeah. So with that, now's time for some questions. Mark and I have been doing a lot of, talking. I would love to see. In terms of sprinting, what are your thoughts on, these different parts? Find your focus. Any questions about that? Any questions about co-creation? Any questions about co-design? Any questions about the scaling process for Mark and his team and how they, choose, to move forward with one sort of co-pack or another or a supplier? Questions about ingredients and any questions about the in-store testing, how we do that, or the buy hut, So any sort of questions anyone has here, now's the time. We'll be, really excited, happy to be able to answer. So here's some of the questions you have. There's one is this specific to only food products? What if you are another category? Is it still applicable? And yes, absolutely. It's Mark and his team are food, being culinary and product development. But for any product development process, this sort of process of sprinting and understanding, discovery, what the opportunities are, defining your focus, co-creation. We've done co-creation in all sorts of products. We've done co-design with different products, packaging as well as product. So this area is got a lot of applicability in the front end and developing products and so on. So any other questions? I don't know, Mark, if you have anything you want to add to this?
I think that this is an extraordinary time, and this process was really designed by Dave and I a couple of years ago. We started in on the design of Craves, but I can't think of a more opportune time to be able to use it than right now, and quite a few companies are using it right now. So I just thank everyone for joining us today. Encourage you to contact us after the session. If you have any questions we can answer, we would be happy to do so.
Here, one more question, Mark. I don't know if you saw this, but so this is one question: is how many concepts and prototypes do consumers typically screen? And so I guess there's two parts, Mark, from your side. What's the typical number of concepts in concepting and then in prototyping that we typically start with through this process?
We're typically somewhere, depends on how many platforms we're concepting against. What we'll put in front of consumers is typically 4 to 8 concepts under each platform. And then, we may have different groups of consumers looking at different platforms so that they're not overly fatigued by analyzing them. On to tasting, actually, you can't really go much beyond 8 products. The feedback starts to get a little wobbly. People's Alex fatigue and they get full, or actually eating or drinking products. So eight seems to be the maximum for consumer consumption.
Yeah, we can do a lot of concepts and screen those through our tournament process. We've done up to 30 concepts because the participants are not evaluating all 30. They're evaluating groups of, smaller groups, usually 3, 4, 5 at a time. And with regard to prototypes, these are qual groups. They're usually 6 to 8 people. And they assess, as Mark said, typically 6 plus or minus, sometimes up to 8, depending on the product category, and but in rapid fashion. So if you start out with, in the case of the soup, we had 36 prototypes going into that the chefs had created, the research chefs had created starting out, and or the culinologists started out, and then from there it was a winnowing down and a further developing process. So another question here is, how have you done research to go from non-clean product to clean product? How quickly have you been able to develop a new clean formula, Mark?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, it's a pretty broad question. It's going to, it's going to depend, of course. I mean, we just had a case where we were asked to take CMC out of a plant-based burger in a project, and actually that turned out to be a lot more complicated than we thought it was going to be. Some of these things don't really require any consumer input. Dave has the ability to give us very exact scores on what consumers think and feel about specific ingredients. So when he's flagging different ingredient scores, we're actually using those scores to help guide the things that we're going to test to replace non-clean ingredients. Of course, we have our own list of functional requirements we're going to apply to that screening, but knowing what consumers do and don't want to see in their products is very, very valuable. So, it can be, to answer your question, it can be as quickly as a week to reformulate something on the bench and get it very quickly in front of consumers, or it can be a much longer process depending on how many ingredients and how big the functional impact is going to be to the final product. And also, what are the client requirements? Is the client asking that it looks and tastes and has the texture of the original product and it needs to be a match? We don't want to know that you've changed the ingredient, just change the label, or are they going to give us some license to change some attributes?
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, if you're trying to get a renovation, launched, in Q2 as an example, is where we would, we see some great opportunities there. You have time to say, we could look at that with our databases of information we have. We probably have the data in there without having to go directly to consumers to get good guidance and to quickly get to some benchtop reformulations, and then move downstream from there, to help you get this any formula changes going. So
this has been a lot of fun today.
Yeah, it's appreciate everybody's input. Our next sort of webinar will be after the holidays, January 14th. We are going to be introducing and launching our Innovation Center. Really exciting. This is evolution 2 of what we launched a year ago. It's going to be launched this time a year ago, and we've got a completely new version of this coming out. It's got a learning center. It's got a syndicated suite of databases of behavioral scores that you can access, and it's got a assisted DIY set of apps where you can actually generate these scores yourself. So through consumer research. So it's really exciting. We're going through that and showing how people are utilizing this innovation center, because we have a lot of users that are currently using it today. So anyways, thank you everyone. Have a great holidays. Stay safe. And we look forward to talking to you all in New Year.